People have a tendency to live in the moment, to believe that things won't really change, that they'll remain much as they are right now. We tend to live in the present. And this gives rise to something known as normalcy bias, which is our tendency not to prepare for disasters, even when we have good reason to believe that a disaster may be on the horizon. The best example that I know of normalcy bias was chronicled in the book Night by Elie Wiesel. This is a book written by a man who was taken into Auschwitz and Buchenwald, two concentration camps during the Holocaust. The Nazis came to Sighet and they told the Jewish people that they were going to relocate them. They came for the immigrant Jewish population first, so they rounded up that bunch first, and a man named Moshe the Beadle was among that group. On the train, they said their goodbyes, everybody waved, and no one heard from them again, except a while later, Moshe returned to Sighet with an injured leg, and he told the rest of the Jewish people what actually happened to him. He said that after the Nazis took them off the trains, they put them on lorries, trucks, and drove them out into the woods where they dug their own grave. They were forced to dig their own mass grave, and then men, women, children, and babies were all executed. Moshe was shot in the leg and he pretended that he was dead, and that's how he survived. He made his way back to Sighet to warn everyone, and he felt that he was spared for a reason, and so he came back to tell everyone what was coming for them. No one believed him. Despite the fact that he had no reason to lie, nothing to gain by lying, wasn't known to be a liar, no one even fact-checked his story. And why is that? Well, they said that it was just too horrible. How could something like that be true? Who would do such a thing? And they simply chose not to believe him. We have a situation in our country that would bode well for caution. We have some very smart people who are saying that we could be looking at potential economic collapse. Not something to take lightly. I mean, something where you'd at least want to consider maybe having a couple extra weeks of food on hand, you know, something that's cheap insurance. It's also possible that nothing will happen. It's possible that we could do what Japan has done and have 30 years of a stagnant economy with less disposable income. It's also possible that since the United States government has spent far beyond its means for several years now, borrowing 43 cents of every dollar, and they are now reinflating the housing bubble, and we apparently didn't learn the first time, they are quantitative easing to pay their bills. So this is what banana republics do. When they can't pay their bills, they simply print more money. They just increase the money supply, print more money, and then say, there you go, thank you very much. We've been buying our own debt. These sorts of things are what led Navy Admiral Mike Mullen to say that our national debt is actually the greatest threat to national security. So something to keep in mind that, you know, a couple extra weeks, you have other types of insurance, right? And if you don't use it, no big deal. You know, you have a couple extra weeks of food or a couple months of food on hand. Best case scenario, nothing happens and you give it to a food shelf. But worst case scenario, you're pretty glad that you thought ahead for your family and didn't stay in that mindset that nothing can ever change. This is the artwork that I keep on my kitchen wall, usually, but I'm showing it to you. When I saw this in the store, I got misty immediately because I'm a freedom lover, and of course I love what it represents, that it was the reunification of East and West Germany. But I also keep it on my wall as a reminder that things can and do change on a dime, that empires rise and fall, and that's actually normal, that change is the norm. So I mentioned stocking up on food, and that's obviously one way to prepare for a potential disaster, and it's key, but it's obviously not the only way either. There are books written on the subject, plenty of internet articles. One of the books that I would recommend is Crash Proof by Peter Schiff, How to Profit from the Coming Economic Collapse. If you went to that title on Amazon, there would be that little bar underneath that says customers who purchase this also purchase this, and then they give you a list of comparable related titles. So that's one way to find those, or you can just search for articles on preparing for disaster online. So don't let your normalcy bias stand in the way of thinking ahead. Thanks for watching.